Girl, you have got to try this Laneige lip mask. Trust me, my lips needed that love.
Love these vanilla vibes from Kayali. That top note is just so smooth. Smooth and stunning. That's what you get with this K18 hair mask.
Those brands everybody's talking about, they're at Sephora. Discover the hype with the hottest names in beauty, including Laneige, Kayali, K18, and Rare Beauty. Only at Sephora.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast. And I'm really happy to have today's guest, Henry Woodman, coming out of Florida. And he is founder and CEO of Canvas Rebel. We'll talk about all about what that is. We'll talk about his strategy, ideas, leadership, mission, purpose, creative pursuits. He's quite of what I consider a creative entrepreneur, and I'm really happy to have him on the show. Welcome.
Thanks, Christopher. Now, if you call me Henry Woman, that would have been like one time in high school when I dressed as a woman, but that was the only time, I swear. I'm not the founder of Canvas Rebel. I did a story for them, which profiled me, but I do a whole lot of other things. So with that, I'll leave it with you.
Yeah, so start off by introducing yourself and what you do, and I'm excited to dive in the conversation.
Absolutely. So thanks, Christopher. I consider myself really a hedonistic and opportunistic entrepreneur. Meaning, for the most part, I would do things that I wanted to do because it made me happy, if you will, or that I'm meandering around looking for opportunities and I see an opportunity and I take advantage of it. And from early on, when I was sitting in a laundromat in college, I'm 19 years old, I'm addicted at the time to Pac-Man, and I'm sitting in a laundromat with a pocket full of quarters thinking, man, I do not want to study. I'd rather be playing Pac-Man, right? So I call every laundromat in Tucson, where I went to college, and I ask them if they have video games. And of course, they all said no. And then I thought, well, you want to share the revenue? And a few said yes. And not that I had any money. I took my school funds and my tuition money. I bought a used machine at an auction, and that started me building a business with video games and laundromats to satisfy people like myself, right? And the irony is, I wanted something there. I couldn't afford a Pac-Man, by the way. I wanted something there for the people that just had a pocket full of quarters and was a captive audience, and for myself. The irony is I never got to play because I would take money out of my pocket if I said to people, okay, I'm next and I'm not going to pay for my free games. It was a nice little start.
Yeah. And what's interesting is on your LinkedIn profile, you've got Annie Moya Media, and it sounds like you founded World Travel Vision, so you're in the travel and tourism industry. And so talk about what you founded World Travel Vision. What is that? And you pioneered production and distribution and what you learned from that.
Sure, absolutely. After college, I have these dreams of producing and directing movies. I moved to Hollywood to seek fame and fortune, and that did not happen. So along the way, I'm doing odd jobs, and finally, I find myself working on a travel film crew doing travel videos. And eventually, I go from PA, the production assistant, to sound guy and producer. And along the way, I find that Chile, country in Latin America, went from a dictatorship with Pinochet to a democracy, and opportunity presented itself because they wanted a game. They wanted content. So I pitched them a game show. And soon thereafter, I'm executive producer of a game show in Chile. This is going to lead to World Travel Vision. While I'm in Chile, somebody introduces me to a 360-degree virtual tour. I put a CD-ROM in the computer. I can look up and down and all around of a destination. And I thought, this is the coolest thing ever. I can travel around. I can shoot destinations without 5 guys and 17 pieces of luggage. This is it, baby. So I set up a company called World Travel Vision, where I would travel around to destinations and I would shoot 360-degree virtual tours, hand my clients a CD-ROM. They would take them to the trade shows and the conferences to promote their either destination or hotel, which was awesome. Until then, a few years in, this is now mid to late 90s, hotels start to ask, how do we put these virtual tours on this new World Wide Web thingy? I'm like, I don't know, send them a CD-ROM, right? I know nothing about technology. And so they say, yeah, we did. And there's no standards. They don't know what to do with it. Help us out. I'm like, all right, let's see what I can do to help. So eventually we go from production of virtual tours to now production, then distribution of these virtual tours to the various travel websites, right? We'd send them a link with an ID number, which had a header and a footer that was their brand, right? And we say, okay, now this is a better business because production is here's the money, here's your photos, thank you, have a good one, call me when you need me again. And then the distribution is an ongoing SaaS, software as a service. And I'm like, okay. We start to figure this out, and then we notice there's a bigger problem, right? Virtual tours are nice to have, videos are nice to have, but photos are need to have, right? And the initial systems that would deliver the rate and the availability to those brick and mortar travel agencies before the internet, they didn't have photos, right? Now, fast forward, the internet's there, they can deliver the rates and the availability, but there are no photos, right? So eventually we morphed and pivoted yet again from production of virtual tours, production and distribution of virtual tours, to production of virtual tours and distribution of virtual tours, and now photos. And photos was now, if you go on to any travel website and pictures of hotels, the Wyndhams, the Hyatts, the Hiltons of the world, those will have come from my servers or my old company. We morphed from World Travel Vision. We set up a new company called ICE Portal, Internet Content Exchange Portal, to distribute photos to the travel websites and their required specs. That was a long one. Yeah. Hope you followed all that, Christopher.
Yeah. That's interesting. And with the initial challenges with World Travel Vision and the success that you had in 97, how was the digital landscape different back then for the travel industry compared to now?
Oh my God, it was night and day. Back then, I would produce a CD-ROM. I don't even know if I've used a CD-ROM in the last decade, but I would produce CD-ROMs and I'd give them to clients and they'd go to trade shows and they'd have these little branded CD-ROMs and it would promote their destination or their hotel, right? And now, and early on, when you would get visuals on the internet, and if you can recall dialing up on 28.8 or 56K, you're like, wow, man, it takes forever just to load one picture. You had bandwidth challenges, right? Nowadays, you expect things to load instantly, right? You expect a variety of visuals and all of the information that goes along with it. I don't remember the last time I really wanted to go to a brick and mortar travel agency to look for deals. I would go online and I would do my research there because all the information is there, all the visuals are there, all the pictures are there, even the virtual tours. So it's changed dramatically thanks to not just the internet, but the speed with which we can get that content on the internet.
Yeah. And how has, because a lot of travel is visual storytelling, and now first you had bloggers, and now you have video bloggers, and you have Instagrammers and TikTok, and you, with your rich background in producing visual content and storytelling, how do you think storytelling is changed and evolved with technology, and where do you see it heading in the next decade? I have to mention Gen AI and AI.
The reality is, I think that more of the independent hotels are getting a leveler playing field, meaning before, if I were traveling and I didn't have an internet access and I'd go to a brick and mortar and they'd say, okay, there's a Holiday Inn, there's a Sheraton, there's a Hilton, you have a sense from the brand what to expect, right? But if they say, oh, there's also Henry's Hotel. Who? I never heard of it. No, it's a really nice hotel. Yeah, I don't really know who Henry's Hotel is. I'm not going to take a chance unless you show me some pictures. And back then that wasn't really possible. So now that you can see Henry's Hotel and Christopher's Palace and whatever it is, it's much easier to make a decision with an unbranded property or like an Airbnb, a bed and breakfast, or somebody's apartment, right? These things were never possible before because we wouldn't show the visuals. And the visuals are probably the most important thing besides maybe price. We'd all want to stay at something and we can't afford everything. But let's just say there is a price point and there's a variety of options during which are price points. So how much we can spend, where exactly we want to stay if we know. Sometimes it's like somewhere in this city so that I can explore it. And then pictures. It fits my style. It looks clean. Different cultures have different interests in pictures. The Asians want to see that the room has slippers, for example. In the Middle East, they want to see clean bathrooms. So there are different cultures that have the need to see different visuals. And I think AI is going to make it easier to segment what people want to see, when they want to see it, and how they want to see it. Some people prefer certain images first. Give me the larger view. Others, I just want to see the rooms. I don't care about the grounds or the spa or whatever it is else you got.
The next question I have for you is with looks like you transform World Travel Vision into ICE Portal and ultimately merging with Shiji Group. Do you believe has been the most significant impact of ICE Portal on the travel and tourism sector?
Yeah, actually, Shiji acquired us. They're a far bigger company. So I think the most significant thing is the streamlining and easy updates of visuals across all platforms. So what we did essentially is we would connect with, let's use Hilton as an example, since I was mentioning them. We would connect with Hilton's database. Anytime Hilton approved and updated any image or images for any hotel around the world, it would go into their database. We would pull from their database every day. If there are changes or what's called deltas, we would then turn around and update the world, the Expedias, the bookings, the Decolocaras, the sea trips. Everywhere on the planet, we'd connect to a travel site or a repository where we would update those images with the proper code, the proper ID, the proper size, and language.
Yeah.
So our significance was consistently making sure that the properties, one, had the right images in the right place. They owned the rights, because back in the Wild West, any hotel could upload anything they wanted. And if they uploaded something that was, oh, I got this off the internet and they didn't own the rights to it, there's another problem, right?
Yeah. Which is really I love this idea because it sounds like you're on the forefront. And what technological advancements do you believe have been game changers, and how do you see things changing?
The simplest was bandwidth. Obviously, early on, bandwidth was expensive, right? Storing and delivering big files like photos or videos was pricey, right? Much cheaper and much, much faster. I think it becomes expected. I don't think I'd ever go to a site these days like I would have in the late 90s, if you will. Okay. So I think the most significant changes would be the bandwidth being much faster and cheaper. When I started that company, storing and delivering large files wasn't cheap, right? Nowadays, the price keeps going down and down because it's more ubiquitous. So I think the expectation is it should be there. Nowadays, you can chat with a chatbot that's all AI driven that will give you information on the internet that I think it was there a few years ago, wasn't as good. It just keeps getting better.
How have global events like the pandemic affected strategy at ICE, and what shifts have you had to make to adapt?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I got to be honest with you. I was one lucky SOB because I sold Ice Portal 1 year before the pandemic in 2019. I stayed on for 2 years to transition to Shiji. So the reality is, because fairly with the exception, sorry, we were fairly insulated with the exception of hotel groups, Hilton and Wyndham and Hyatt and Best Western and Choice. These are big multi-billion dollar companies. They were calling saying, look, we need some help. We need some relief. You can imagine every single revenue stream they had was shut off. It's not like, hey, a couple of hotels are going to go down for a little time. No, the entire world shuts down, but you still have your bills to pay. So I think it was very challenging for them. And we tried to do whatever we could to help alleviate them having to pay us, even though I didn't own the company anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, 2020 was just a very interesting case. How can people find out more about you and talk to you and reach out to you and follow your work?
Sure. I know you mentioned Anamoya Media early on. So 40 years ago when I moved to Los Angeles thinking I wanted to produce and direct movies. That didn't happen, but I bought the rights to a book, which I just published, and I'm developing that concept for the book. The book is called The Reincarnation of Marie. I'm developing that concept into a TV series called Slippin', which is Slippin' Through Time. And so I created a website called mariethestory.com, which includes on the book, myself, the series, and some additional information, including my LinkedIn page and Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, if they want to reach out and see what the heck's going on.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and again, thanks so much for coming on and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Christopher. Appreciate it.